Hello, everyone that's tuning in. Obviously, you guys know. Firstly, I want to thank you guys for all joining us. This is the main actors for the short film that I wrote, and my good friend Alistair Chekaoui over there on the left side of the screen directed. So I'm going to give everyone a chance to sort of introduce themselves, and this is really sort of a chance where you guys can introduce yourself to the audience. Obviously, we know that Save Me From Myself is a short film that will be released soon. It's going to be out there. It's going to be on the market. People will be able to see it. It's going to be distributed. We're going to look at film festivals and stuff. And this is a great opportunity for the audience to sort of get to know you guys before they see the movie and see what you guys did with your characters and everything. So firstly, I'll shoot things off, just a bit about myself. I'm Riel John-baptiste. I'm the writer of this short film. I'm just going to go into a little bit of depth about how this script came about. So I wrote this script between the end of 2018. I'd say I spent about 6 to 7 months on this script. It started off as a very different film, and then it really sort of evolved. Once I had a strong idea of where I was going with it, it sort of evolved into exactly what it became. And the inspiration for the script was, at the time, I was actually going through a very difficult period in my life, and that was centered around, I had a lot of things sort of bottled up inside of me, inside my brain. It felt almost like a pressure cooker. Like I just couldn't, I didn't feel like I necessarily had anyone that I could sort of open up to or share my feelings with, or how I was feeling at the time. And then it sort of got me thinking just how consequential that could be, how I knew from my state that there's a lot of people, in my mind, I knew this, there was a lot of people in this world that have gone through a lot worse than I've gone through, and have a lot, worse mental health than I did at the time. But I knew that. And it sort of had me thinking, well, this, it is all relative, but there are people that have gone for a lot worse and have a lot worse things have happened to them. And I sort of thought to myself, okay, what could the outcome of this be? How dangerous could it be if these things are always bottled inside of you and there's no outlet for us to get it out? And then I thought to myself, well, okay, what if someone did make an attempt to have that conversation with someone, and what if they were shut down? Just how far could these things go? How bad could it really get? And thus the idea for Save Me From Myself was born. So yeah, that's sort of how the initial inspiration of the script started. I'm going to pass it over to Ali, and I'm going to ask him just to sort of set it off. When I first came to you with the script, there was a couple of things, let's be open about it, that you weren't exactly connecting with, was there? And you sort of sent me away and said, well, look, take a look at these things. And obviously I did, I obliged, and I agreed. So my question to you is, what were your initial thoughts when you first received the script? And what was the deciding factor in actually deciding to then go ahead and direct it?
You finally got your chance to hear my true feedback on your script. You're using the opportunity well. I mean, exactly. For me, like, even though there's like selfless parts of the reasons I do films, I think for me it's very difficult to kind of make someone else's vision my own vision and to connect to it as if it's my own as well. And at the beginning, obviously, like, we've worked together in the past, and I knew I can tell it was good writing, I could tell it was poetic, but there was just an element which wasn't there yet for me. However, as you know, and as I'm sure all of you guys know a little bit, that I quite like psychology. That's why I quite get into the physical sensations that things evoke and those physical feelings, and I do a lot of meditation. And for me, the way I label the things I want to give in films is normally through one very profound physical sensation. I mean, the last film was to do with mortality, and it was that strange physical sensation. But sitting down at a table with you and talking about the script, but talking about it on a psychological level, and realizing that this script had subconsciously, although, as you said, very consciously, you've been writing it because of what you've been from, subconsciously, all of that had come from this essence, this very dark place that you've been through, and had caused you all of your mental health. And hearing about that there was a tangible link with the script, and everything that caused, or the main thing that caused a lot of your mental health issues that you suffered from, that scared the shit out of me. And that feeling of fear is what I wanted to connect the audience with, that feeling that I felt, because I thought the way I felt that was so scary that if someone can feel how scary that could be through the perspective of another person, that's going to be so cool. And I love to give the audience some specific psychological feeling, and that's the one we found there. And then I was like, okay, this is my vision too now. Like, I can't let this go now. And I think that's why I signed on to direct Save Me
Awesome.
from myself.
Damn, very visceral that was. I was like, okay. Amni, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. So can you tell everyone a little bit about who you are and who you play?
Yeah, I'm Amni. I'm an actor and I play Amelia, who is struggling with depression. She has a lot of feelings that she can't share with anyone, even with the person who most trust. And yeah.
Amni, I know that Ali wants to ask you a question as well, but before we get onto that, I want to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This was sort of your first prominent role for a short film, is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you tackling something like Amelia is almost the representation of the unheard voice, almost, you know.
Mm-hmm.
How much pressure came with, you know, playing a character that was a symbol of the unheard of voice within society, within the world, really,
Mm-hmm.
that so many people can relate to? Was there any pressure that came with that, and how did you put any of that into the performance, perhaps?
Um, well, it's I know people,
Mm,
like close friends who's struggling with the same thing.
mm,
So it's kind of like I have a connection, I have something in common. So when I was playing Amelia, I kind of knew her feelings
mm,
and all her story as well. It's kind of like a version of what society and people who are struggling with depression or all those feelings, it's kind
mm.
of like an easy way to just connect with the character.
Yeah. What did it mean to you to play Amelia, to play that unheard of
I
voice?
mean, it was hard because um she has a lot of history, a lot of like things that she's been through, and it just it was hard,
Mm,
but at the same time it was challenging, which is great.
mm. Ali, I know you want to have I know you have a question for.
I've got burning questions. No, I think Amni answered most of it there. To be honest, and that's something I could see through your performance a lot. That you really did connect to that character through mutual friends, and that's something we spoke about from the beginning. And
Yeah.
and I think another element that we looked at was that you obviously just touched on her having like tough feelings in the past, her having a tough path, and you didn't get specific with that, but she had a very tough past. She went through a lot, but
Yeah.
but also something we spoke about a lot is how Oliver, her boyfriend in the story, did bring her happiness, did bring her a lot of happiness, but
Yeah.
how that kind of makes it a little bit more tough as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like she had like a past, right? And then she met this guy who makes her feel happy and loved because she wants to be loved, right? So she wants to be safe. She wants to be with someone who makes her feel the way she is. So in that kind of like in relationship between them, they're like good, but there is something that she's like feeling inside her, like she doesn't know, but she knows that there is something in her that doesn't make her feel fully happy.
Yeah, that's really well said. No, that's exactly it, isn't it? That's like
Yeah.
that's the whole thing, that there's that burning thing that is just, it's not a short-term sadness, it's something that just stays there regardless of her
Mhm.
having those happy days, and it plagues her mind and makes her just want to get rid of it even more and get it off her chest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like she's feeling that she had something but she wants to share with her boyfriend, but she doesn't know how to, or she doesn't know how well he's gonna like respond to that.
Mm.
Hmm. Awesome. Big Ted
That's how she does
Roy.
it. Oh, Ted Roy.
Ted Roy. My favorite person in the entire world. Do you know what? I have a feeling people are gonna love Ted Roy. Like when they see him, they're just gonna run up and grab him and hug him. You know.
They're going to feel sorry for me. That's what they're going to do.
Ted Roy. I know Ali will probably have a question for you as well, but I have one to start with. When you pick up a character, like you have a lot of experience in the acting game, and I know that people can probably hear it already from your voice. You've got this stunning, magnetic, beautiful voice that just really keeps you engaged. So I know you've done a lot of voice acting in the past as well. I've got a question for you. When you pick up a script and you see a character like the old man that you play in Save Me, no offense, but obviously it's no secret that there's a lot of mystique around the old man and who he is and what he represents, really. You know, when you pick up a script and you're tasked with this character. Obviously, you look at a lot of feature films, you look at a lot of short films. There's loads of characters that have this essence of a mystique about them, a mystery, you know, because, you know, from a writer's perspective, people want to keep the audience engaged, so they give them these almost layered characters that people can keep engaged with. When you see a character like the old man, how do you go about making that your role? How do you go about making that more original? How do you tackle that? How do you, as an actor, once it's all said and done, when you sort of look back on it, how do you and you know, you want to say to yourself, well, I did that, I made that my own, you know, I haven't seen that elsewhere before. How do you tackle the originality of a character like this?
That's a huge question. Oh, that is a huge question.
You thought I was going to ask you how you like your tea in the morning.
Thanks, guys. Check, please. Check, please.
Ali, help him out.
Yeah. Okay. Let me. The beauty of this character, to me, the best stories are in the writing. It's that simple. You don't need to do much if the writing's there. And that's how I see it. Now, all I can bring to it is me. Yeah, if I try and force anything, it will come across forced. I know we had discussions on the writing a couple of times. Yeah, when I was trying to look and searching for depth that I wanted to feel in the writing. And when the writing had it, it was automatic. Yeah, you almost just need to say the words. Once you understand the part, and don't get me wrong, you pick up a piece of paper, you got to bring the words to life. You got to understand what's going on. And you try and play the scene. You don't play the final intention or what happened before, or you pick up the words and what is happening in that scene? What is the objective of all the actors that are taking part at that particular time? And for me, I'll take you back. To answer that a little bit better, I take you back. When I first started this game, there's some fantastic actors out there. You're out of your depth and you watch all these brilliant people do lots of things. There's no point trying to copy them. And there's different systems that you can choose. For me, my best all the way through, whether it's good or bad, is to be as natural and as close to me as possible. So I'm trying to understand the intention of the character and just take parts of the character. And if, I can answer this better, if the story is excellent, if the writing's good, then the character almost plays itself. You will have occasions on certain things where you've got to commit to something where the words don't make much sense. And you might be playing subtext because of the way the thing's written. And even when you see great comedy, it's played deadpan, it's played straight. They play it straight, let the words let the words be conveyed, and you don't try and do the punchline early. You don't let people know what's coming because you don't know what's coming. when I talk to you, I don't know what reaction I'm going to get back from you. So I just try and play it as natural as I possibly can, but it helps me if the writing is great.
Tedra, you said something there, and I haven't stopped thinking about it. You said play the scene. And I think there's almost a lesson in there somewhere for a lot of up and coming actors to hear from yourself, who's a bit older and who's done more. You said that you weren't, leave the intention of the character aside for a second, play the scene. A lot of young actors are very obsessed with this idea of, as long as I know the intention of the character, I'll be able to nail it, But I think you said something really important about playing the scene and looking at the wider scope, Is there something to be learned from that?
If I can only go what works, what I've found so far has worked for me.
Mm.
And I've had a lot of tutors. So at some stage, you've got to decide what works for you, because you can go different ways. Mm. If my character is a guy just walking down the street, that's all I'm doing.
Mm.
That's all I'm doing. I could be anybody. You don't know where it's going. Yeah, I'm just walking down the street. So ask me to walk down the street. Now, if the character's got something on his mind, I might be a little bit wistful, but I could be anybody at that particular stage. So I'm not playing where the character's going. I'm not playing the philosophy of the character. I'm just playing the scene.
Wow, that's very poetic. Wow, that's lovely. I'm going to cut that chunk out. That was very nice. Ali, I want you to elaborate on something, because the way Tedroy has said it, he's made it he's really sort of simplified it in a way. But Tedroy, I've seen your performance. I've seen basically the very final stages of the film. And I have to say, you did a fantastic job in this film. And the way you've made everything sound there is so simple and very concise. But Ali, I want to ask you in a more sort of, I don't know if you can call it a more sort of intricate or complex way, what Tedroy did on screen, it's amazing, So can you speak on sort of what you thought he brought to the role from a more emotional standpoint, from a director standpoint? And what you were impressed with?
Yeah, no, it's funny because what Ted says really shines through, and I think it's obviously something that works for you all the time, but for this role, I feel like it worked in abundance. And I'm actually curious to ask you a little bit about how you felt the energy was in the scene between you and Oliver, because I felt a lot of it was in the reaction and in the expression of the old man. Obviously, there's those long poetic lines as well, but a lot of it is in the expression and the connection with this drunk young man on the floor, and it comes across so naturally. So I can see why it's coming across naturally because of what you just said. I'm actually curious to hear, not to say anything necessarily, but to hear Ted talk a little bit more about the energy field that he felt between you two in that scene, or like how he felt when you were talking about some of your character was talking about some darker things, maybe not all of those darker things, but just how he felt in response to that versus how he felt maybe when your character was covering up.
Well, here's the thing. We could play certain scenes. It's yes, it's the words, but it's also the way the words are portrayed, the way the words are said. Mm. Yeah. So a lot of acting is reacting. Mm-hmm. So on a different day, Riel may say the words slightly differently, and I have to take that intention. Mm. The only way it's going to be natural if I don't have a fixed way that I'm going to react to him. I have to react to what he's giving me. So the skill, if that's the right word, that I have to have at that particular time is to be so in the moment that I'm reacting to him each time he says something. Mm. And I'm not forced to reacting. I'm reacting to how he's giving me the words. So for any reason his energy might be down, I have to react in a certain way as a mirror to that. If his energy is up, I might react a different way again. Yeah, I can only say for me, acting is reacting. Now, there's a lot of training in a system called Meisner. A lot of actors will know.
Yeah.
Just improv. Now, and you can say the most silly lines, but it's the way you say them. And the subtext, the way you say, makes the person react a different way. So not only acting to the words, you're acting to the subtext that is coming across by the body. We all know that a lot of stuff is in body language, maybe more said in body language than just the words. Yeah. So you've got to be alert to all this. Yeah, if you take a band might go to somewhere in the Bahamas to put an album together. It's going to sound different than if they went somewhere like Iceland to play, to record an album. It's different. You take the atmosphere that's going on at the time, and that comes in to your performance. Now, I'm very pleased you're saying all the nice things, but I haven't seen the performance. Yeah, I haven't seen it. So you're saying, to me, there's certain things I would think about, and I wonder if I did that, because you don't get to look at it. Yeah, you've not seen any rushes, so I don't know how it's come across. Just
you're making us look bad, Ted Roy. Shush.
Yeah. No. Ted's gonna see it afterwards and would have said all of this, and everyone's gonna be like, "What's he on about? He's not doing any of that." No, honestly, Ted, I promise you.
He's rubbish. Yeah.
He just looks cold. He just looks like the director's left him out in the cold for too long.
Hold on. Because I've got a very, this is a crazy story. It's so funny. I'm only going to take 60 seconds to tell it. But we had it was freezing, like 4 a.m. in the morning. For people that don't know,
cold, yeah.
The conditions that we filmed in was terrifyingly cold. Amni doesn't know this because she didn't film outside. But there was one scene where I was looking down the whole time, and then Ali decided to, you know what I'm going to say? and you shot over Ted Roy's shoulder, I think. And then he said this like really intense line, and then I had to look up. And because Ted Roy wasn't on screen, wasn't on film, he had like this whole blanket around him, this pink blanket that was flowing in the wind. Like, and the camera was like that, and I was like, I still went with it, but in my mind, I was like, it was so funny. He was flowing with blankets. Like,
I remember you said you shouldn't do that. I didn't care at the time. I was so cold. I'd pick up anything.
How did Ali let him do that?
Ted's in a full bodysuit, just like.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That's great.
Caped Crusader.
Yeah,
the pink scarf as well. Yeah, no, I remember that. And you're the worst for distractions as well, Riel. Anytime you get distracted on set, it takes. So this was like, I think this hit a threshold for Riel that he couldn't even get distracted. Like he couldn't even show it because he was in shock. He'd gone into shock.
So yeah, I haven't even mentioned that yet, but yeah, so I play Oliver in Save Me From Myself. I mentioned that. I didn't mention that in the beginning, and a lot of my scenes are sort of going back and forth with Ted. He sort of discovers me. I've turned into basically an alcoholic due to some events in my past, and he finds me sort of just on the floor, and then there's a sort of instant something between them. We can't really figure out what that is, and then it sort of just rolls on, and we have back and forths. And I have to say that everything you said is so true. Like everything you said, that was all in the performance. Did you notice that?
Absolutely.
So I have to say, from my perspective, it was great working with someone like Ted Roy, because he really taught me something about reacting. It was all about reacting, and great to work with him as well. David, you've been sitting there patiently. How are you, David?
I'm fine, thanks.
Introduce yourself and what role you play.
My name's David Broughton, and I play not a very nice person.
Not at all. Obviously, you play Amelia's. There she is. Amelia's foster father in the film. And I'm going to hand it over to Ali now, because I don't want to say anything that I don't know what to say. I'm scared. I don't know what I can say.
I think I'll bring it back to the first day we met you, David, because I kind of threw myself in the deep end there, because I get quite uncomfortable in those situations, especially like close contact with other guys. But I thought, if we're going to pick someone for the foster father that's going to be really make someone feel really uncomfortable, I need them to make me feel uncomfortable. And we did the same audition with all of the foster fathers, and you did exactly what we wanted. You actually embodied that. And obviously David is such a nice guy, like from my experience, such a nice guy, but to be able to switch that on and actually connect with a character like that is very difficult. Is very difficult for a lot of people to do, to find the empathy, and it felt very real, very, very true. And when you put your hand on my leg, I felt very uncomfortable. And from that point onwards, I just knew that like you brought that right level to that character. You could be comfortable with those more disturbing sides of your character. And I honestly think in terms of when we shot, it was very easy. I don't think I even had to give you really one direction, because we knew that it was going to be spot on, like from that point onwards. I mean, you did a fantastic job. But how is it like for you to what is kind of like the thought process, or what kind of way do you connect with a character like that? Because I know you've done roles in the past which have been similar. You had a role which was playing Joseph Fritzl, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yep. And you played some of these roles before on
yes.
the darker side of the game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what your process is in tackling these characters compared to the very compared to the characters that have issues that are not deemed wrong by society, or have parts of them that are not deemed wrong by society.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think first of all, it's sort of you sort of try to get into the mindset of those people, and sometimes sort of when you try to do that, you think, how can they be that sort of person? So you try to sort of think about how they would react, and all the time, obviously, you know, you're not you're thinking about that person, you're getting inside the character. And then sometimes, like for example, when you're doing sort of a stare or a sort of a look around the corner or something like that, you try to get into the character, but sometimes that doesn't always work. So little things that I do, for example, is sort of, I imagine, let's say it's a really hot day, somebody has the last ice cream, you were just about to go for it, you can't say anything, and then you really look at them as to say, you've got that last ice cream, how dare you? And sometimes that really helps just to sort of get into the mindset in terms of how you go. But yeah, you have to look at the character, you have to look about sort of the situation, and you have to think about what that other person is going through. So and sort of people's reaction to that. So, you know, you play with different ways, and just to see what works and what doesn't.
David, sorry, Ali, you're going to say something.
Well, I was just going to say that's really great. Like that level of empathy with the now includes unlimited minutes. Okay, cool. We've got unlimited minutes.
Okay. I'm glad
Brilliant.
everyone saw that. Unhappy. He's like, get out of here in 5 minutes.
It's a miracle. Yeah, no, it's the ice cream thing. I think that's a really great kind of I was going to say memento. I don't think that's the right word, but that's a really great example of finding a very normal version, normal version of that intensity in everyday life, and like restricting you, feeling like you can't say anything, and just looking at them that way, like that's great. That sounds great.
That is true. That's actually yeah.
Definitely brought the ice cream look to the table. I can attest to that.
David brought the ice cream look to the table. David, I do have a question for you also. Obviously you didn't hold anything back when you did play this foster partner. And obviously, you know, a writer can sort of write a character however, but at the end of the day, it is going to be down to the actor's interpretation of what they bring to that character. You know, it's how they interpret it, right? How important do you think it is to really show all the realistic nature of what this is when you're filming a scene, when you're playing this character? How important is it to really play the scene in all its rawness and its horror almost? And do you think anything less would be an injustice to people that really do go through something like this?
Yeah, I think it's really important to show that full feeling, because not ever been in that situation myself. You have to look at it and trying to sort of think about the horror that those people actually go through. And I think to play it any less than that wouldn't be giving it full justice. So once you're going into that scene, you really have to to do 100% as you feel that situation is. And even then, I think that, you know, you're only imagining what people are actually going through. So, you know, you do give it your full 100%. And hopefully that then sort of conveys the sort of the horror of it,
Yeah, because
as it sort of goes through.
It's in the writing and it's in the characters to interpret it in its rawest way and not actively water it down to anything, because that would only really do it a disservice, you know. And if it is, like I said, if anything beneficial is going to come out of it, it has to be almost documentary style. You know, it has to be real, it has to be raw, because you don't want people that have really been through it to say, no, this you don't want people that have really been through it to say this isn't accurate. That would be a disservice, you know.
Absolutely. But I think with the writing and the directing, it becomes an easier process to actually do that. So, you know, all credit to you.
And to Ali, of course. Ali, directing something like this, is it when you come onto set, what is your intention for the day? If we can get into your mind a little bit about, like, for example, these some huge scenes that Oliver and the old man have, they exchange when they're outside and Oliver's on the ground and Ted Roy's looking at Oliver, and these huge scenes, when you come to set and you're on set and everything is on you to really get those subtleties out, how do you work with the actors in this case? I know that you and I have had some intense discussions on set in the car just before Oliver goes out for a scene. And I know you had some similar conversations with Ted Roy on set. Put yourself in your shoes when you're actually on set. What is the, because eventually what it comes down to is that actor is then going to go off your advice and go into that scene. Is there pressure in that? Is it, do you thrive in that pressure, or?
I would say, like, I would definitely say I thrive in that pressure. My favorite part of the filmmaking process is always working with actors. I say as a second comment, like, I like the composition phase too because of the nice music and everything. But for me, my joy comes with the actors, and that goes back to the psychological aspect of me. That for me, when I'm on set, first of all, you guys already had it quite sorted out. So it was just little tweaks here and there, because we'd spoken a lot about it over the last few days. Maybe not as much as we would have loved to with the restrictions of time, but we did speak quite a lot about it in the time we had. And that was great. That's the first thing, for us to really all be on the same page and wavelength of kind of those little aspects of the scene, those little energy dynamics. I mean, like Ted said, the writing was really good. So those bits felt more natural. And I actually, with that, I stood off a little bit and I looked at the bits where I really wanted to put intention into, and I really wanted, for example, the old man to be feeling your energy or not feeling your energy, and I really wanted you to be tapping into that actual true authentic fear inside of you. And for me, it's always about, when I'm on set, talking to you and talking to Ted and trying to find examples that I can relate to you in your own lives, because I feel that, like, as a writer or a director, you can have all these ideas for what the character's meant to be, but if you can't put it into the actor's head and it can't feel honest and true and real to them from their perspective, there's no way that it's going to be able to be played, because you're another person. And kind of a little bit like Ted says, that you're your own person and then you're doing that role, so you have to connect to it in your own way too. So it's like, the acting's a different element for me, and the reason I love it so much is because of that psychological element, and just looking at you and thinking, like, I can see that in this take there's something missing. Let me try this. Let me throw this at him. Let me try trigger him in this way with something that happened to him in the past, or just talk about what's going on there. Why were you feeling that way? And then find the truth in that scene in the way that I want to do it. So it's all about psychology for me, and trying to figure out what's going on in the actor's brain at that point in time, and also giving them things they can resonate with, rather than just saying, do that look, move that way, change it a little bit. You know, that doesn't work for me. I need to find something real and true. So that's mainly what I do.
But when you're on set, and I think the other actors will attest to this also, like, you're very quick with knowing exactly what you want to get out of the actors. Like, you'll have a take and then instantaneously, you know, every piece of detail. How do you come to these conclusions, like, so quickly? It's crazy.
Yeah,
on a very human level, that is crazy.
No, I don't. And you've had more experience than that than most people. But I mean, I think it's just because.
Is that knowing the script really well? Is that preparation, or is that in the moment? Because it's weird, because it seems in the moment sometimes where you're just like, oh, okay, I've got it now. you know?
I think it's an intuitive thing, and I think two things. One, it's quite intuitive because since I was like 17, and when I was shy at school, I've told you this before, I was trying to learn how to become more attractive with girls. So I was like psychoanalyzing myself and learning all these ways to be more confident in myself and learning things about my own psychology. And because I psychoanalyze myself so much, I think I have quite a good intuitive read that something's going on in someone's head or someone's feeling a certain way, because I'm aware of my own feelings and my own negative feelings because of the psychoanalyzing I did in my early days and my more superficial years, looking at all that kind of stuff. But also I think it's because, like, of that physical sensation thing that I talk about, that fear or having something specific that I'm looking to feel in the scene. If you an old man are giving me like, are you giving me that in the scene, I don't have to say, is it good, is it bad? I felt that, you know. If I felt what I was looking for, how can I deem that as bad? And also, if I feel that something's slightly off and it's not what I'm feeling, I can normally guess that I trust my actors a lot, and I can normally guess that there's something that's been miscommunicated in one of your minds. I don't normally think that there's anything wrong with the acting. I just think there's a wavelength imbalance. So I just go off on that and I say, listen, there's something wrong there. I know that you're thinking something, or I'll throw something in. So I think that's what it is. So true.
That is so true. Because sometimes, and even like when we had those conversations in the car or outside and stuff like that, like sometimes you're almost like, you don't even explain something. You almost tell a story. It's very poetic in the way that you direct. Like, for example, when you were directing Oliver and we had those off-screen conversations, you'd almost tell me a story in a weird way. Like you would just say things but it was, and it would just hit the right note in my mind. And it was sort of like everything became clear with a word or a sentence. And it was very, very, almost very quick. And it was so concise. I think that's why you were able to get hopefully a good performance out of Oliver, because the information you gave me was so clear and concise, and you hit on all the sort of cylinders. And it almost started with, you know, things that I've been through and drawing from my own past. But it really, with Oliver, it's difficult because Oliver's quite a complex character. And there is, what you did, I think, for Oliver was you gave me a lot of buzzwords, like things that I couldn't relate to necessarily in my own life because we'd already dealt with that. And now we've moved on to the acting and Oliver. There were words like, for example, hopeless, or, you know, certain words like that really helped me to draw on a certain emotion and get into character. It was really, you were using the right words. You were like flirting with me, basically.
Actor, director, flirting. No, yeah, I think with obviously that element of Oliver tapping into with that very like honest performance from the old man, and with Oliver, like with you actually tapping into those darker feelings and connecting to them through the stories or whatever made you resonate with it when we're sitting in the car, or whatever it was that helped you to resonate with. That combination was very powerful and intense, because getting that honest confirmation from the old man's character, with him being very in tune with how you were feeling in the way that Ted goes about it, combined with you actually feeling that way yourself and connecting to it in your own way through your buzzwords or whatever you want to, whatever way you found it, that's what made things quite. I was very much there with Oliver, and I could very much feel his fear and the intense things going on. And I can say the same for Amelia as well, in terms of I could really feel what Amelia was going through, because you were actually experiencing it yourself, and you'd actually found a way in, and you guys all found a way in, and combined with Ted's ability to be so present in the moment, it just heightened everything for me. So yeah, you guys made it easier.
Your direction was, I mean, right from the word go, you were on top of it.
Yeah, he was.
We had a book of directions from you, which made the whole thing a lot easier. No, I'm being serious. It made the whole thing a lot easier.
Yeah.
And the rest of it was trying to fine tune it in the short time that we had to play around with it. But you had a very clear direction. Do you remember your code? Yeah, I remember you giving us a code, a half an hour long.
Oh, the video.
Yeah. And I remember getting this and thinking, okay.
When am I going to find the time for this?
Yeah, but it was clear. Yeah, it was right. I've got this code, and you even said on there, if you have any ideas, throw them in. But you had a vision, and I guess our job as the actors is trying to fulfill your vision the best that we can with the limitations that we have.
I missed you guys, man. I missed you guys a lot. Talking of sweet talking the director, Amni. I'm actually wondering, did you know because for me, for example, I would say that there was certain moments that completely changed my not completely changed, but really helped me in the direction that I was going to go with Oliver. And that was two things. One of them was doing rehearsals with Ted Roy and finding the scene. And a
Yeah.
lot of it was also conversations with Ali about when he would tell me these almost poetic stories that linked to my life, and then say these buzzwords that helped me with the acting. Really, really helped me. That is it. That is plain surface. That was it. So I sort of found the character a lot more along the way while I was working with these two guys. And but before that, I guess I had a slightly different interpretation of Oliver. So I sort of found it during the filmmaking process while working with the director. When you first read the script, did you have an instant idea of how you were going to play Amelia, or did you
No,
kind of find it working
I,
with Ali?
I didn't know anything about her. Like when Ali told me everything, he kind of like knew her, but I was like, I want to know the story about her, about the things that she's been through, why she's feeling like that, why she's feeling like she doesn't have the energy to just go outside, you know, be happy, because she has this beautiful relationship with her boyfriend, but she feels that still there is something that doesn't let her be happy. So I kind of like, I didn't know her.
Yeah.
Then like, you know, Ali told me about her, about her story and all that. It kind of like, I made a connection with her, you know, all the emotions, all the feelings, you know, the people that I know that she's that they've been through, like kind of like moments in their lives, you know, that lead to depression or feelings like they don't worth anything, or they don't feel like they're doing the right thing or something like that.
David, I'm curious to know, especially on the back of your character, on a very surface level, I mean, why do you think this is an important story to be told in terms of the meaning of it, and you know, having sort of your scenes in the back of your mind? Why do you think scenes like that, it is important to sort of shed light on the realism of those scenes? How do you think an audience will receive that?
I think it's really important in terms of the realism, first of all, because what we said previously, I think it's something that you really need to convey the horror, the anxiety, the sort of mental strife with it. So I think that's really important. In terms of sort of conveying that and sort of getting the realism, I think it's really something that there's lots of people out there that are experiencing this, and I think that it's important that we shed a light on it, and without sort of going into details of what goes through, is the realism. The realism is really important to shed a light on that, because without shouting a voice on it, then that's not going to be heard. And I think the sort of, by people looking at this, hopefully then they will be able to understand the horror, understand the anguish, and understand the mental strife. And I think that's why it's really important.
Ali?
Oh, on that point about the realism,
I just said your name because I didn't
Ali.
know.
Someone take the baton out my hand. Someone take the mic.
No, okay. Ali.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: right now, everything we've said, let's get a little bit real. Everything we've said has been very, yes, everything's great. Okay, wonderful. What were some of the, what can you give us an example, Ali, from a directing perspective of a challenge that you experienced on set? And I haven't asked you about this previously. I don't know, but so this is off the bat. This is quite a difficult question, but any challenges that you can name and how you overcame them?
Well, I think I'll start with the challenge, just quickly, the challenges that I didn't overcome. And this is kind of, you're like, what? No, but I think from this film, being able to work with you guys as actors, it worked really well. And having some great cinematographers and everything, it worked. The end product for me is what I wanted, which I'm really happy with. But I think because it was such an intense, fast shoot for quite long dialogue and everything, and us shooting in the cold and everything, I wasn't mindful enough of everyone. So as a director, that was a big challenge I faced, because it was actually quite a big crew. We had quite a big crew in that parking lot, and it was difficult to kind of be in tune with everyone and everything. And I think it's just one of those things that taught me a lot about being really aware of everyone on your team and how they're understanding, not just the actors, because it like, obviously I'm always going to be in tune with the actors because it's what I care about, but I wasn't there enough for some of the other people. And I think in the future, either me being more aware, or having a really good assistant director will help that. But I think the challenges that we overcame in terms of the shooting, because we did run out of time. We got to a point where we literally ran out of time, and I had people in one ear telling me we've got to do this, and I had people in the other ear telling me we're going to have to rebudget and reshoot another time. And I think for me, and this is something that I learned from our previous film together, Riel, which was a zero budget film, that we had to kind of play to our strengths, get the most important 80% perfect, and then for that last 20% to do it in a way which is going to work and still cut together in the edit. So I think for me, that was the biggest thing that we had to overcome that last day, when all of a sudden we had to shoot like a big section in absolutely no time. But yeah, I think overcoming that time challenge was a big thing to face. But in the end, staying true to the characters and keeping that energy is what I think is going to transcend through when people watch the film.
Beautiful. Tedroy, I have one last question for you. I'm not sure if you can, I don't know if you can make a comment on this. I think you probably will. But I've spoken to a lot of sort of older people.
Yes, thank you.
It's not so bad.
I'm with you.
They're still alive, are they?
I'm sorry, I don't mean it like that. But,
You look sorry. Is that you looking sorry?
no, it's just because me and Tedroy, we have that running joke of like young and old. But
Poor Harold.
yeah,
Yeah.
not him. Tedroy, a lot of now this question isn't exactly directly linked to the film, but I think it's an important sort of topic of mental health, and something that is discussed regularly also. Being someone that is a little bit older, I have spoken to a lot of older people about the topic of mental health to get a sort of different perspective on mental health. And a lot of them say that mental health is, and people speaking up about it and it being like a thing that is really topical and really heated in society right now. They say it's a sort of more recent thing. And like when they were growing up, let's say they're around maybe 60 or 65 years old, they say when they were growing up that the whole idea of mental health wasn't really a thing. It wasn't, no one complained about it, you know. So nowadays, with so many people talking about it, I wrote a film on it, I've been through it, you know, is it just a matter of fact that now people are actually talking about it? Was it always there, or was it something that was developed and...
Okay, no, it was never talked about. There's very little talked about. Very macho society. You're considered weak if you're struggling. There was taboo with having a be mentally challenged some way. Everything's far more enlightened now. People getting educated at warp speed. You've got the internet that takes a whisper and becomes a crescendo in no time at all. That's what you have now. So it is far more. Yeah, mental health. The problems with mental health has always been there. I've had a couple of when I took the script. Yeah, I've had a couple of friends of mine very close that were challenged, and the idea with the character of playing it quite natural, because a lot of the times you don't know. They're not jumping around and screaming and all this sort of stuff. They got their challenges and they're hiding it in plain sight. And sometimes we find out about it when it's too late. They bottled it for so long. And they're doing regular jobs, they're doing regular things, may have family, whatever it is. You don't know. There will be a portion that obviously demonstrate distress. But for a lot of people, yeah, it's not an IQ thing, it's just something. It's just a wiring thing, something, how they are. And whatever's driven them to that point, they're still dealing with it in open society They're going about their regular jobs. They're fighting with it every day. So right now, yeah, it's great that people can talk about it and take the stigma away. Obviously, the internet's a big thing of that. Advocates using the internet's a big thing of that. Big names are coming through now and talking about it, and they're trying to get the stigma down. But for definite, back in the day, you didn't talk about it.
Wow.
It was a taboo subject.
Wow. Okay, well, I think we're almost gonna round up now, aren't we, Ali?
Yeah, I think we will. Have you got some closing comments?
I do. I have one question actually for all of you. I think David has gone to take a call actually. Hopefully we'll obviously come to him last. Hopefully he's back by then. Amni, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
This is my last question for everyone. And I'm not sure Ali might have another question, but how would you advise someone that comes to you, for example, and says, oh, my friend has come to me, they say they're dealing with, for example, anxiety or depression, and they're opening up to that person now. And some people feel a little bit like they don't know what to say to a person that's come to them with these mental health problems. They don't really know how to respond to them. How would you advise someone that has come to you with that problem and said, oh, I don't know how to tell my friend that, you know?
To just listen. Yeah, this as simple as that. You just listen, because the only thing that they want to just do you, because they come to you, right? You just want them to be listened, and then after that you just, I don't know, be there for them. Try to, I don't know, try to how to say this, try to be there for them, like all the time. There's no other way. Just listen and be there for like friend that you have, and that's it.
Oh, I think that's very beautiful. You have to listen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ali, someone comes to you, how would you advise them on how to speak to their friend who's going through mental health issues and has approached them and hasn't necessarily asked them, like, what do I do? Has just come to them with their problems, and the friend wants to be a good friend, but is not educated exactly in how to respond. What would your advice to that person be?
I'd say just like very similar to what Amni said. Not, this isn't a cop out, but definitely listen.
Boo.
No, but what I'd add to that as well is that for someone who isn't aware of doesn't know how to deal with it, so to say, it's because it's just like you guys as actors. It's because you don't know how to relate to your character. They can't relate, and it doesn't matter if you can't relate directly to the topic that they're talking about. You've just got to find, if you're really struggling, you've got to find a way to think of a time where you've had very dark feelings like what they're talking about. And it might be about something completely different. It might be a complete flipped context. It might be they might be talking about something that's been building over time. You might have just had one really bad day. If you can remember that bad day and think about how shit you felt, because we're human, we've all felt shit. No one in the world can say that. And if they do, show them to me. But if you can find a time where you felt bad, even if you're in a good phase and you're happy and you're happy-go-lucky and everything's good for you, you can always remember those times and at least connect to how you felt at that time. And for me, if you can have an appreciation for that, it doesn't matter if you can. And even now, I've made mistakes when I've been chatting to someone. We've been having really deep chats, and I'm not like that person, but I've been like, I've never had anything like that. I don't know how I can relate. I'm trying to relate, but it's not about the thing. It's about the feeling and about you having those same dark feelings or shameful feelings or whatever it is that you're bottling up, that is, again, like you've said on the Save Me chat, the Save Me Instagram page. It's so hard to say it in the first place. You should have some appreciation for the courage of someone opening up, and that they actually trust you enough to open up to them, to you. So yeah, that's
fantastic. Fantastic. David, I know you might have to go soon, so this is the final question. So you can shoot off after this at any time if you need to. Did you hear the question? I don't think you did you?
No, sorry.
Okay, so someone has come to you, for example, and how would you advise this person that has come to you, and they've come to you and they've said, look, someone has just come to me, one of their friends, for example, and they've opened up a little bit about some experience in their life and how they're feeling right now. They might be dealing with depression or anxiety, and they're just sort of speaking to you about it for the first time. And that friend has come to you and asked for advice on how to deal with that certain friend that has come to them with these mental health problems. How would you advise them? Because a lot of people feel uncomfortable, or they don't really know how to address when people come to them, you know?
Yeah, I think the important thing is, first of all, is to listen. So not to sort of shy away from engaging with that person, but also to realise that sort of when it's important to sort of pass it on to sort of the professionals in that respect. So you know, we can listen, we can give advice, but there is a point to which we actually sort of, you know, we need help in order to advise that person. So I think it's important to know, if you like, to be supportive, but also to know your limits in terms of what advice you can actually give, because we're all not sort of trained in so many different situations.
Oh, thank you. That is a really, really good point. That's a really good point. Depending on the advice that what they've come to you with, if it's the severity of it, then it would be naturally important, good advice to, you know, seek professional help. Someone that knows and has been trained in that certain field. That's very good advice. Ted, any comment from you? I know everyone's basically said everything that can be said, but anything to add to that, Ted?
I obviously agree with everything that's been said, and I think to understand, for whatever reason, you have been chosen.
Yeah.
To be their safe harbor. You can become a safe harbor for them. They can come to you. They've chosen to come to you for whatever reason. So yeah, the listen part is part of that, but understand that they've chosen you as a companion here, and they're opening up to you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with their deepest part of their psyche, and they need trust from you at that particular point, not judgment. It's just trust. And I go along as well. Yeah, and we're not experts, but we can be a friend. Yeah, simple. Yeah, and then hopefully with our judgment, we try and be supportive with them and help them find the professional help that they require, and be next to them, helping them to take those steps to find a professional help, so they know at any time, even if it's just psychologically, they're not on their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
And I think that's a big thing.
Fantastic. You guys have basically said everything that needs to be said. The only thing that I would add is I think that there is a slight stigma around this whole advice thing that you should give, that you need, if someone comes to you with their problems, that you need to somehow turn into a therapist or a psychologist, and you need to list this and list that, and you need to give them this big speech. And I think a lot of people get afraid of that because they almost don't want to give the wrong advice, or they feel uncomfortable in the situation. They feel like they're not qualified, or they just don't understand it. There's that as well. I think that my message would be that it can be a lot simpler than that. Not their problems, but how you approach their problems. So sometimes it's just attentiveness. Sometimes it's just presence. Like you guys said, it's listening. It's just being understanding of what they're going through. Understanding, not to say you understand what they're going through, but when I say that, it could be something that you perceive, for example, as quite trivial, but that doesn't necessarily mean that what has happened in their life, it doesn't mean a lot to them in their experiences. You know, because it's all relative at the end of the day, isn't it? What you can take, what you've been through, it's all based on your own life experiences. So yeah, I would like to crush that stigma of you need to turn into someone, you have to have a big impact then and there. You know, sometimes these people, they've come to you, and sometimes you think, well, why did they come to me? Well, maybe that's perhaps because they didn't have anyone else to come to, and they actually just, there's almost a privilege in that, you know, and you don't have to make a big song and a dance about it. You just really sometimes just have to be there, and they're missing that one person that's there perhaps. And I think that your 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes out of your day, for example, or your week, you know, could really change the course of that person's life for the better. Just those 5 minutes, just those 10 minutes. So that in itself, I think is would be a great thing to do. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. And guys, this is the acting cast, and of course Ali, who's the director of Save Me From Myself, the short film that will be coming out soon. I want to thank you all so very much, and I'm so excited to get this film out there. It is nearly done, and it's a great opportunity right now that where everyone's going to see you guys, get to know your personalities a little bit more. Ted Roy, of course, plays the old man. David plays the abusive foster father. I was going to say Amelia plays Amelia, but it's because your name is close to Amelia. Your name is close to... Amni plays Amelia. Ali directs the whole bloody thing. I don't know if Ali, you have any closing words?
Yeah, literally just one closing thought, because obviously we want to take this film to festivals. We want people to see it live, and we want a lot of people to see it so that it can have the impact we've all spoken about today. So I just want to leave you guys with this one thing. So the anticipation is building, and people are rustling past each other in the rows. The screen is black, the lights dim down. Naturally, everyone goes quiet. The production label comes up, and then it fades from black to Ted Roy's face, and the music fills the room. They are all locked in. Save Me From Myself.
Oh, chills. Alistair Chekaoui, no other man to direct it. It is what it is.